right, guys. So today we're going to look at Matter Control. It's an awesome piece of software from Matter Hackers. It is a design tool slash slicer. Basically, it's a two-in-one. And today we're going to look at how to use one of the cool options in it, which will allow us to convert an image to a 3D model and how to turn that into basically a coin. And with that coin, how can we use it as a tool in the classroom? So I'm going to go ahead and do a search for wolf silhouette. Now, the reason I chose a silhouette, it's black and white. Too many colors, it's going to really be too much noise for the program. It won't convert as well. You can try taking a color image, changing it black and white, but because we're going to scale it down to a coin, that's why I feel like silhouettes work really well. Bonus, you can have students draw a silhouette of something and create their own custom coins later on in the year. But at the beginning of the year, usually what I do is I'll grab some cool silhouettes. I'm going to go ahead and save this image. I'm going to call it Wolf 1. I'm going to replace the one that was already there. Now, it's a JPEG. So we're going to click on this, and we're going to just quickly export it over, convert it over, however you want to look at it, as a PNG. Okay. The reason for that is it needs to be in PNG format for it to work with Matter Control. Now, I'm going to head over to Matter Control. I have it open. It's free, by the way, to download. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to head over to my library, and I'm going to grab the image converter. Okay, it crashed. Sorry. Let me go ahead and pull that back up. I've noticed that sometimes it crashes, and then when I launch it again, it works perfectly. Let's try that again. All right, there we go. So you're going to notice that this right here, if I use my right click or right mouse button, I can move this around and look at it. I can also use this cube over here, very similar to Tinkercad. When I click on it, you notice this image is the same thing. Well, guess what? When I click here and open this, it's converted. Now, when I click on it and I scroll down, I have other options, okay? The one I'm looking for is its base, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and hit rectangle, circle, outline. So you have different options. For this one, we're gonna go with circle. Now you're gonna notice, why is it over there? Because the centering is weighted. We're gonna hit bounds and it centers it. And we're good to go. So what do we do next? We're gonna head over to our save option and hit export. And we're going to convert it to, or export it as a STL. We'll call it Wolf1. Go ahead and replace that, and it's there. So now I'm going to head over to my slicer. I'm using Simplify 3D. Let me get rid of these arcade parts. And let me import in my download. Let's look for it real quick. There it is. I've saved it before. And so I'm going to go ahead and double click here. On the slicer you're using, it depends how it works. For example, the one I'm using now, if I double click, I get my options to rotate it, change the size of it, and so on. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 19. That's about the size of a quarter. And what I would do is just go ahead and print this out and just double check if that's the right size for whatever piggy bank you're going to use. And actually, the next part of this video is going to show you how to create your own piggy banks and where to find some piggy banks, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and just zoom in so you can see that. Let me arrange this. There we go. And check my settings. I don't need this because it's flat. It'll print very well, very easily. And just one coin will take me about, let's see, 4 minutes. And so I can print several of these on my printer. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll say 3, 6, 9, that's 12 of them. Take you about 40 minutes on just regular settings. So there you have your custom coins. Now, how would I use these in the classroom? The way I would use them is currency, classroom currency. And things that I would do in previous years is I would have students earn it by being there every day. Your group gets bonus coins. You get a coin for yourself. If all the team members are there, say it's a group of 4, here's 2 bonus coins for everybody being there that day. So that helps promote attendance. Once they've built up enough coins, I have a menu of options. that allows them to go ahead and purchase either print time, and they can print whatever object they want. They can go ahead and I'm going to put a dragon now. Um, I would let students take home robots that were my own personal ones. I would let them check them out. Um, it just depends. What do you want to have as an option? They can buy a homework pass. They can buy a test pass. It just depends. But I made sure to develop a currency system where they weren't, in 1 week able to buy every single thing. I wanted them to work as a community and use that money together and say, okay, you know what? I saved up enough money. I'm going to go ahead and let, one of my partners, they can go first. They want to buy a 3 hour print time, 4 hour print time, depending on what the teacher has it set up as. And so that's one way to use these. Later on, you can have the students create them themselves. Um, Later on in a future video, we're going to look at how do we do nameplates. And there's two different ways. One is in Tinkercad, and another is in this program. Now, I'm going to show you something. Let's say you're making different coins, maybe different denominations and so on. So right now I mentioned how you could use it. I would use every coin would be worth the same value, but let's say you want to change it up after the first semester, the first quarter, the first trimester. And you're coming in here, you're like, all right, I want to design 4 different coins, 5 different coins. They're each going to be worth a different value. How would you do that? Well, guess what? I don't need to start over. What I'm going to do is just click this picture, grab my dragon, and you notice it's already in the center. And then guess what I do? Go here, export, STL, hit export again, call this dragon coin 1, export. Now it's in my downloads. Guess what? We bring back my Google Images. I'll put a paw silhouette, like maybe a dog paw. There we go. Grab this one, save image, hit save. It's already a PNG, so that saves me a step. Guess what? I click here, whoops, and click here. Now I have another coin. So that's why I love this one, because it does it so well. It does it very quickly. You can always export this out and then put it in Tinkercad, put a hoop here. You can also do that here. There's options, there's different shapes here. But for me, I really love it for this option right here that I can make my coins. And in the next section, the next part of this video, we're going to look at where do I find pig banks? And what if I want to make my own? Well, we're going to look at that in a bit. All right, guys. So now what are we going to do with these coins? Well, what I like to do is I like to 3D print piggy banks for my students, and I have it there in their pods, in their groups, and that's where they start to collect their coins. So where can we find piggy banks? Well, we can design our own, and we'll look at that in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and go here and put piggy bank. So first we're going to look at where can I find piggy banks and so on. So we're going to go here. Thingiverse, great website. You can do a search for things. Let me go ahead and just type math, for example. Find some cool math stuff right here. But let me go back to piggy banks. So if I scroll through here, you'll see various piggy banks that can be 3D printed. Now, which ones should you choose? Well, it just depends. So I'm going to go with this one. And let's see if it has it listed. If I scroll down and go to my print settings, I'm looking for this right here. So before I click any of these tabs to download it, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here and check the settings. A lot of the people that upload files here will have these. If it doesn't, it's a piggy bank. You can try, printing it a little smaller, scale it down, test it out. Does it print accurately? Great. If not, you can skip it. It just really depends. If you really like a piggy bank and it doesn't show whether you need support or not, most likely it's not going to. But if you want to be sure, you could just test print it, and then okay, it works great. Let me print it at its actual size. Now, once you're here, you might want to click download all files. Okay, it's going to give you a zip drive, a zip folder. But what you could do is just go down here to thing files, and you can just go ahead and download both of these. So we're going to head over to our slicer, Simplify 3D. Let me get rid of these and let me correct my view. So let me go ahead and import those two that I just downloaded. Okay. And there we go. Now you can print it at the size it is. You can print a little smaller and see if your coins fit it. Print these first, maybe a little bit smaller if you want. Make your coins very small. It just depends what you want to do. But I'm going to go to my process settings. And this is way too high. I was printing something else. We needed about 20%, 15% around there will work. And prepare to print. Now, something of this size on a, say, an Ender 3, similar type printer, we're talking 23 hours. So what I could do is go ahead and scale it down and then maybe have my coins be a little smaller. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select both and put it down at 60%. Now, I have both selected. Now, some slicers won't do that. They'll give you weird results. But, if I click on one of these, 60%, 60%, it just depends on the slicer you're using. Okay, so now what happens if I scale it down to 60%? Now, this may be a little bit easier. Maybe you're more comfortable printing it, in one shot. Maybe you don't want to leave it overnight. I've printed on Ender 3s and CR10s for days. I think the longest I printed is 110 hours, and it printed and didn't fail. And that was with the Creality CR10. So here is my piggy bank. But what if I want to make my own piggy bank off of a model that I found here? Okay, well, here's what you're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and put a hamster. I'm going to recreate one that a student did a few years back. I'm going to find a model of a hamster. Unless it was a gerbil, but I'm going to see if I can find it here. This guy might work, actually. So I'm going to grab this one, the cheeky hamster. And what I want to do is find out, does it need support? Perfect, it doesn't. So I'm going to look at what he says right here. Okay. So let's grab one that is sitting. Let's grab the sitting one. Okay, I'm going to download this one. And you might say, well, how do I make that hole in the bottom? Where do I get the plug from? Well, we already have it, and we're going to use it in Tinkercad, okay? So let's jump into Tinkercad. Once I'm logged in, I'm going to head over to Designs, create my 3D design. And you don't have to do this, of course. You can just find piggy banks. Now, what I want to do here, once I have the model that I want to use, I'm going to go ahead and import that in. Now, depending on the file size, depending on how complicated it is, it might not work in here. Perfect, it did. And you know what? I'm going to scale it down right now because sometimes they fly in here and they're gigantic. So I'm going to put it at 50%. Let me let that work. Okay, it's working. Let's give that a second. You can see right here, it's still working. So what we're going to do right now, I guess I'll walk through the steps while this is loading. We're going to make a duplicate of the model and we're going to turn it into a hole. So you notice this is a solid shape. When I combine it with, say, this sphere, they become a solid object. But if I was to turn this into a hole, like this one right here, guess what? When it's combined with a solid object, it carves away or will slice away that part. And so what we're going to do is use that model, turn it into a hole, scale it down a little bit, and then slide it in, and it'll hollow out the inside of the original model. And then you might be wondering, so where am I going to go ahead and get the plug? Guess what? You have it already from our other model. And what we're going to do with that one is turn it into a hole also, and make sure we use that same one of that size and leave it here and have it really close to it. That way it prints as one set, the new piggy bank that you made and the plug that you brought in. So I'm going to hit refresh. Let's see if that fixes this. Sometimes it hangs for a bit and that did not work. Let's try it again. Let me choose a file. If that doesn't work, I'll go ahead and grab another model that works. Let me try if I put 25%, maybe that'll bring it in. Maybe at 50% it was still huge. While that's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and head back here and see if I can find another hamster model that I think might work. And as you get more experience, you'll start to notice that, you know what, you'll be able to pinpoint which models probably don't need support. I would still double check for reference just in case. If you do put support material on a model such as a piggy bank, you run the risk of the inside having a bunch of support material. Now you can double check in the slicer, and we can look at that right now. That will ruin it because you're not going to really get it all out. Money can get stuck in there and so on. Let's try gerbil. Maybe that's the one that my student used. Let's see. Gerbil. This thing is taking a long time. Let's head down here. This is really not working out, is it, guys? It's not coming in. Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to use this one. I just saw one. That I liked. Let me go back. Forward. And let's put gerbil here. Sorry, guys. I'm going to laugh if I go back and it's already there. So let's look at this one. Is this a solid model? No, it's not. So let's just put statue. And let's find one that will work without support. Go ahead. Oh, never mind. Here it is. All right. So sorry about that. That took a little longer than I thought. Now I want to scale this up to work on it. Okay. Now watch what happens when I pull on these. It loses its original shape, right? So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. I'm going to hold shift on my keyboard. Now, if you are on an iPad, download the app and it has an action button. When you hold that, it allows you to scale it and keep its original shape. See? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And what I'm going to do is click here, and now I have a duplicate. Okay, you see that? There it is, right? So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on this one, make it a whole. There it is. You might say, well, how do I see in there and so on? Well, click on this model, push T, and now it's transparent. It's not a hole though. It's just so I can look inside. And so I'm going to hold shift on this guy. Scale him down a little bit. Let's slide him over here. And this is where we're going to have to work with our camera to get a pretty good look. Let me zoom in. And right about there. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, it's not transparent. I mean, I could technically keep going and go all the way in and see that it's in there. But I want you to notice something. Kind of see some shadows. So when I go ahead and do Command A to select everything and group it, one thing I want to look for, are there any holes on the actual model here? Now, once it groups together, if I see like a hole here or here, that means that I did not center it properly. Notice on the bottom, it did that. So I don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. And what I'm going to do is lift this one up. That's something I forgot to do. Oop, right about there. Let's move this guy back over it. And you can see the shadow there. So let's get them in there. And see, once those shadows disappear, I'm good to go. So that means this guy is still a little too big. So we're going to shift, scale him down a little bit more, slide him in. And let's get him in there. There we go. Now let's look back here. So what I'm going to do back here is actually slide this in a bit. Let's make this guy transparent. And guess what? Now I can see where it's sitting in there, and it's going to hollow out nicely. Okay. So let's go ahead and Click on this, make it untransparent, and let's group it. Now you notice right here, I'm probably gonna have a hole. So you're gonna wanna play around with that, make sure that it's fitting in there nicely. Now when I make it transparent, of course I'm gonna see them together like that. Let's pull this guy back over here. So what about our plug? Let's go ahead and import, grab our screw cap, import it in, and right now we're gonna size it correctly. There it is. So again, I'm gonna hold shift. Let's look at the bottom. Okay, I think that's perfect. So watch what I'm gonna do, okay? You can also do Command C, Command V to make a duplicate. Let's move this guy up to the side. We're gonna keep that one, make this one a hole, and we're gonna slide it there. And so watch what happens if I group it right now, okay? Do you see what happened? It still left those parts there. So that's an easy cleanup. Watch what we're gonna do right here. Let's pull this back. Gonna lift this up. Gonna zoom in right here. Place our cylinder right on top. This is a new feature. I'm not in love with it, but you know what? That's fine. Gonna raise this up and group it again. Get rid of that part right there. Now I didn't go high enough to get rid of the rest of that, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and undo that. Here's my cone. Let's lift it up just a hair more. And again, we're just gonna group it together. Now, if you want something simpler, see now I have my grooves for my plug, so let's go ahead and go back. If you want something simpler, you definitely could just have the kids, you can just go ahead and, I did Command A, Command G. Let me do this. See, Command A selects everything. So when I group it using Command A, it'll lock that piece exactly where it's at. But now I can move it independent of my cool hamster piggy bank. Now, you could technically, if you wanted to, just do that, hollow it out, and then you can just use this cylinder, make a hole in the bottom, have kids put tape on the bottom. But I think this adds a cool layer to it so the kids are more excited, like, hey, it's a real piggy bank. And then you can show them, like, hey, look, I made it myself. You can make it a project maybe a couple months into the school year. If they already have experience with 3D printing and design, guess what? They can start off right away with it. So then I'm going to go ahead and export this as STL. Let's jump back into the slicer. And there is our piggy bank. And I think this will allow you to see a little bit easier that we have our grooves right there. You see them right there? And you can see it's hollow on the inside. Perfect. And so now we have our custom piggy bank. So then you could do these during the summer if you wanted to and have, maybe objects that mean something to you, and it'll get the kids interested and start asking questions about yourself. Or again, you could have the kids do it, show them this video. You can do it live and teach them as you're learning it, yourself. And then they could be the ones to design the piggy banks for the next quarter, the next semester, and so on. So hopefully this is something that you can use later. Thanks.